free, rechargeable with the sun, and powerful enough to run refrigerators, freezers, and medical devices when the grid fails. But it's not just for emergencies. Use the Grid Doctor 3300 from My Patriot Supply to slash your power bill, keep your spring adventures fully charged, or light up your next backyard barbecue without relying on the grid. No gas, no noise, just reliable, portable power. Anytime, anywhere. Protect your home. Power your life. Be ready for whatever 2025 throws your way. Get the Grid Doctor 3300 now, only at MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com, America's leader in emergency preparedness.
Broadcasting from the Kanowski-Bresny studios comes the radio medium Laura Lee Show.
I feel like you had to let him go.
Yes, he was on life support.
You've taken on the burden for his passing. Is that true?
That is right.
There's something to do with a Barbie doll.
He used to stick the old school Barbie dolls in the cake.
Oh my God, you're giving me goosebumps right now.
The radio medium Laura Lee Show. Tune into your spirit every Tuesday at 4 p.m.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 a.m. WBNW. This is WBNW, 1120 a.m. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about your brand new guide, Todd, how to leave assets to your beneficiaries. Todd, how can you ensure that your kids' inheritance can be protected from future divorces?
Well, estate planning, as you know, does things like avoid probate, protect assets from nursing homes, and reduce taxes. But you know what? The family behind the estate plan can be more important. trust. And so the trusts live on after you die, and you can have language in there that divides the assets to the children, but doesn't just pay it out, right? It holds it in trust for them and allows them to be trustee, but just not take it. In order to get it, they have an independent trustee that can say yes or no. And that way, by not owning the asset, if they get divorced down the line after you're dead and the other side says, hey, I want half of what's in that trust, you're going to say, that's great, but you have to ask the independent trustee. So it's now not going to be available to you. And more than just the ability to say no, it's the fact that you don't own it. So if you don't own it, it's not a marital asset to begin with, so it should not be even subject to the divorce. So learning how your trust works after you die can oftentimes be more important than when you're living, and it does more for you after you die than when you're living sometimes.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they've written a brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Your Beneficiaries. To get your free copy of this comprehensive guide that will help you determine the best way to leave assets to your family, simply call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It's Friday here on the Financial Exchange. Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you. It's been a weird week where, I got to tell you, the first 2 days of this week felt like they took a month. The last 3 days, don't even know what happened. Feels like just snap your fingers and they're done. But here's where we are at this point. Our top story today continues to be, focused on that U.S.-China trade embargo, trade war, however you want to, phrase it. There's not much trade going on between the U.S. and China at the moment, simply because the U.S. has applied 145% tariffs to all Chinese imports, minus a couple of things. China has applied a 125% tariff to all U.S. imports, minus a couple of things. And I think there are two stories here that kind of get at where we are right now, which the first one is China may exempt some U.S. goods from tariffs as costs rise. This from Bloomberg. And specifically talking about, I'll quote here, authorities are considering removing the additional levies for medical equipment and some industrial chemicals like ethane. Officials are also discussing waiving the tariff for plane leases. Like many airlines, Chinese carriers don't own all their aircraft and pay leasing fees to third-party companies to use some jets, payments that would have become financially ruinous with the additional tariff. So, obviously, I think in looking at this, it's clear to me that both sides do not want to be in the same situation with 145% tariffs in place for any extended period of time, because they view that as something that would be really bad for both of their economies. Fair?
Fair. Also, seemingly fair that neither wants to lose any sort of face in this argument.
Correct, which brings us to the second piece here, and it's in CNBC, but quite honestly, like if you look anywhere all over social media or basically any other financial reporting today, it's Trump asserts trade talks with China are underway with Beijing after Beijing denies any ongoing negotiations.
They in fact called the news of negotiations to be fake news.
So here's the thing. I don't know who's telling the truth, but I can tell you that both parties are lying.
Well,
right?
yeah, okay.
So here's the thing. This is all being publicly negotiated. I am 100% sure that President Trump is not telling the 100% truth on this matter. I'm also 100% sure that the Chinese state media agency and President Xi are not telling the 100% truth on this matter as well, because they are trying to leverage public sentiment in their respective countries to ensure that they maintain, the political support that they want.
Yes.
I don't think that this is anything crazy to say. So what's actually going on? I don't know, but it's probably not nothing.
Agreed. Yeah, we're not just sitting here saying, we'll be fine. The Chinese are not sitting there saying, we'll be fine if we can't get any more Boeing airplanes.
Right.
Or, incredibly important medical equipment that we need to do MRIs. And likewise, the United States is not sitting here saying, well, maybe we can make F-35s out of plastic instead of this rare earth that comes from China.
So I think, there's a huge range of where things could be. It could be anything from, like, the staffers who get coffee talking to each other being like, hey, this is rough, man, huh? Yeah, it's rough. You guys going to do anything? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Like, it could be anything from that all the way up to, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent having conversations at the IMF meeting this weekend. I have no idea. And it could be anything in between.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to speculate and be like, well, these are the people that are talking to these. I have no clue. But it is very clear to me that we probably don't have President Trump and President Xi on the phone on a daily basis talking about this. And likewise, we probably don't have any conversation going on. It's somewhere in the middle. And I'm not going to speculate on exactly what's going on because I have no freaking clue.
Well, and remember, too, that the idea of no talks happening is crazy to begin with. There's
probably no official talks, but it's like...
Let's talk about the farming industry. There are Chinese buyers of soybeans who live full-time in Iowa, whose job it is to inspect the crop and understand what's going to be coming into it. You think they're just like, I can't let any Americans into my house this week because we are not supposed to talk to each other.
And here are the things that you can see in these things, in these kinds of negotiations then. It's, okay, that those Chinese buyers of soybeans, they're going to the farmers and saying, hey, we're not going to be able to buy this stuff unless, X, Y, and Z happen. Like that's how your, backdoor negotiations end up happening. That's how all those back channel communications are. Tim Cook, I'm sure, is talking to his suppliers in China, even as Apple, by the way, we'll talk about this later, talks about moving more iPhone production to India, which is not really surprising, something they've been, doing for a little while now, but now, trying to ramp up and specifically manage the supply chains.
I do think surprising the way it's being messaged, but not surprising in fact the action.
Yeah, but Tim Cook, I'm sure, is talking to his suppliers in China being like, hey, I'm going to need you to get me this pricing, and I'm sure the suppliers in China are saying, okay, we can get you that pricing, but can you go back to the White House and tell them that we need X, Y, and Z in order to get you that pricing? Those are the kinds of conversations that are likely happening. Which ones and on which, no clue. But it's obvious to me that there is neither no conversation nor significant president-to-president conversation going on. And it's likely somewhere in between because both sides realize this is untenable.
Now, conversations are all great, and we are already seeing some signs of these tensions weakening a little bit, maybe, here and there, at least compared to where we were on Monday. I think that you can say that the likelihood of some negotiation between the United States and China is more likely than we thought maybe a week ago. The question that I'm running in the back of my mind is, how long before we start to notice? Because I'll tell you, I go to the grocery store, I go to Walmart, I go to, a local hardware store. I've noticed no change.
Correct.
In spite of the fact that what's the volume of stuff coming into the United States? Down like 70% from China right now?
Well, it's not actually down yet, and this is the thing. So the volume of ships that left China in the first week of April was down 64%. We reported this, by the way, about a week and a half ago, and it's showing up in print media now, which, love to toot our own horn. If you want to know what's going to be in print media the next week, listen to our show the week before, and you generally have a pretty good idea of it. But I think, here's the thing. Those ships left China the first week in April. It generally takes, depending on the exact port you're leaving and port you're coming to, anywhere from like 18 to 30 days is kind of the range that it can take for goods to get from Asia to the United States. So we're sitting here on the 25th now. You're only starting to see the impact of that shipping drop today. And really you're not. Like, the Port of Los Angeles is still cranking pretty well. There are publicly available, there's publicly available data out there on what's coming into and out of the Port of Los Angeles. And you can see, actually, this week, year-over-year change is up 56%.
Okay.
Because these are all the ships that left the last week in March, front-running tariffs, being like, we got to get out before April 2nd.
Okay.
Let me tell you what we see the next 2 weeks right now. And again, this is all you can, if you literally Google Port of Los Angeles tracker, it's like one of the first few things that comes up there.
It's free. You don't need a New York Times or Wall Street Journal.
No, I'm looking at it right now. I've paid them no money to do this. Anyways, next week, change from previous year, down 10.64%. Now, again, these things happen because it's not linear, like you see these, fluctuations. May 4th to May 10th, bookings for space at the Port of Los Angeles, down 30.81%. And you'll see that accelerate. So remember, stuff gets shipped from China. It takes 3 to 4 weeks generally to make it to the U.S. And then once it's in the U.S., it takes a couple weeks to make it to where it's going, and then a couple weeks to get onto store shelves. So it's really like kind of a 2-month process from stuff leaves China warehouse to it gets on the shelf at Walmart.
Yep.
Now, remember, companies have also done some stocking up in advance. Like we see it just with the data here. So they've built up some inventory. You probably start to see the first signs of anything weird 3 weeks from now, right after Mother's Day.
And I'll be honest,
it's not going to be widespread at that point.
It won't be widespread at that point, but it also won't resolve itself with the snap of a finger.
Because, once again, it takes 2 months to get everything from China to the shelf.
But what I'm worried about longer term is, let's say you do get something pretty massive on a trade deal with China, which I think is very unlikely that we're in the same place with China that we are with Europe. Guys, 3 weeks from now.
Even the Wall Street Journal piece that came out on Wednesday was talking about, 60%. Hey, we might reduce tariffs to 50 to 65%.
But even if you got to zero, and you are
which you're not going to zero.
But even if you got to zero, would you as Target be like, okay, yeah, load up the ship and send it all here, and I'm 100% confident that I won't be facing 60% 3 weeks from now? I don't think I would.
I still back the ship up.
Yeah.
What's my choice otherwise? Here's the thing. If I don't back the ship up, I'm dead anyways.
Yeah.
I might as well give it a run.
So I do think that we are about to see some of this in a not very long time. It will be, here and there.
Quite honestly, it'll start to peak right around 4th of July.
And it also won't be at...
I say peak. It'll start to be, noticeable.
The large businesses won't be what you're talking about. We've talked about the game board maker and the likes of those. There are plenty of companies out there, for instance, in the toy space, that facing 140% tariff, it's not as though what they can do is drive that cost to you and drive up inflation. They can't afford to make that dollar payment.
Well,
they will not be able to actually make the payment on the tariff.
Here's one of the...
And I don't think there's a lot of lending facilities for tariff payments.
And again, let's take a quick break. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit just about, again, the places that you may see this start to pop up this summer, because it's clear to me that it's not going to be the smoothest summer for a whole lot of goods in the U.S., even if you get a resolution today.
Yeah.
The longer this goes on, there's kind of a ticking clock here where, hey, the longer this goes, the worse it potentially gets, because it's more time that there's stuff not being shipped from China. But let's talk about where some of these potential impacts could show up this year, and we'll do that when we return.
Tariff fever is in high gear. We've got the latest on what might be next and how long it might last. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Beneficiary planning and asset protection go hand in hand. Cushing & Dolan has a new guide out called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries, and it can help make your planning process smooth and easy. Leaving your assets to your children isn't as simple as it sounds, especially if they have problems of their own. If you're retired or nearing retirement, it's time to consider the best way to keep your assets in your family while avoiding significant financial consequences down the road. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. You'll learn which paths are the safest when it comes to protecting yourself and your children while avoiding unnecessary risks that can create substantial problems in the long run. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
One of the keys to enjoying a peaceful retirement is flexibility. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Today, retirement planning involves lots of possible changes and challenges given all of the external factors that may affect your goals. So creating a budget for your retirement is vital to financial stability. Retirement comes with a number of monetary considerations, from how much money you'll need every month to managing your existing investments through market volatility. Our new guide is called How to Build a Retirement Budget, and it will offer a variety of options for your consideration that may lessen your risks when it comes to your planning. Call right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That's 800-393-4001 or request it online from our website, ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That's ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL, aka bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mike, when it's 95 degrees out in the middle of August, do you like to stay cool?
I do, yes.
What are some of the ways that you stay cool when it's
air
hot
conditioning?
Out? Okay, let's talk a little bit about air conditioning. Mike, do you know how air conditioning works?
pretty embarrassed to say a lot of electricity.
It is a lot of electricity. That's exactly right. It's the entirely correct answer. And specifically, do you know how air conditioners typically start up? The answer is no.
No, I do
Here's how they start up.
A loud fan?
No, that's what starts up.
Okay.
But the way they start up, there's something called a capacitor in an air conditioner.
Knew that.
And the capacitor, it's not the flux capacitor, which is the device that makes time travel possible.
Correct.
Never mind.
It's a regular capacitor.
Got it.
And basically what a capacitor is, it's a battery. They cost, I was looking on Amazon earlier, they cost about $15 to $20. They're not particularly expensive.
How many of them do we make in the U.S., Chuck?
Not very many. They're almost all made in China.
Ah, darn it.
And so this is one of the interesting things. Like, again, you just the point of this is not to say this is going to be the problem, but rather, hey, a lot of times if you're having trouble with your air conditioner, the way that it starts up is it uses this capacitor to provide a surge of electricity to get it moving, because even though it's, pulling a bunch of electricity from your circuit breaker to begin with, it still needs extra juice to get moving because there's so much power involved. So a lot of times the easy fix on an air conditioner that won't start up is, okay, replace the capacitor, and that, helps and clears up the issue a decent chunk of the time. If you cannot get capacitors into the United States, what would be either a $20 job if you're doing it yourself or a $100 job if you're hiring someone to do it for you becomes something that you just can't do, and so you end up replacing the entire unit instead or doing nothing.
Which, unclear to me that replacing the entire unit would also be feasible, because I'm sure the capacitor isn't the only item in the air conditioning unit that comes from China.
And well, here's the thing: like, if you're buying like a separate unit, it's
probably already
it usually
in the
has
US.
everything there. It's in the U.S. waiting. But so these are the kinds of things where, again, it could be something like this. Other things that most of them are made in China. Do you guys ever have to buy like an Ethernet splitter for your home? Some kind of switch like that?
Yeah.
Most of those are made in China. And I'm not saying that they should be. I'm just saying, hey, you might not be able to get these things for some period of time if, in fact, we still have this as the status quo. Because right now, those things cost, again, think about the capacitor issue. I want you to go through this. Right now, they're being sold for like $17 on Amazon. You slap 145% tariff on it, the cost of goods sold is probably going from like, I don't know, $3.50 up to $7. But then you still have all your import costs and everything. The cost goes up to $30 or something like that, which is manageable. But you still say, okay, is this going to work given the overall numbers? Like, will people buy these? For air conditioning, maybe they will. If it's for other stuff that needs to get, put into buildings that are being constructed, appliances, plumbing, things along those lines, how can you manage the cost of that, especially if you have contracts that are fixed without allowances that are built in? The place I'm talking right now about, any kind of municipal construction. You bid on those projects, you are not, in most cases, you do not have significant allowances because the town does not have significant allowances. How many contractors out there sitting there going, how do I bid on something for a year from now not knowing what the costs are going to be? How do I bid on that even?
Right. You likely go to the municipality and say you're going to have to work this into your budget somehow.
And the town, of course, is like, I can't. I've already raised my property taxes a ton over the last couple of years. I can't go doing this more. Do we just scrap the project for the new school, the new fire station, whatever it was going to be, because the bids are going to come in 15% higher than we thought they were?
By the way, this is, look, these are serious concerns. As I've said before, we're in a far better place than we were 2 weeks ago when we thought that there were significant reciprocal tariffs on every country across the globe. July is also the time frame when those 90-day suspensions expire. I think it's unlikely we go back to where we were, 2 weeks ago in terms of the status quo on tariffs.
I would be shocked
but
if we do.
That's all going to be operating in the background too, and certainly plays a role when, for instance, Tim Cook is talking about Apple phones being made in India instead of China now. I would think somebody as big as Tim Cook has some guarantee that India is not going to be facing these tariffs on the iPhones, but certainly, if you're some small game board manufacturer, you're not 100% ready to go make a big investment in India or Vietnam on the possibility of further tariffs in July.
And I've told this story before, but it's a great one. I have someone who once tried to move manufacturing from China to Vietnam, and they asked their Vietnamese supplier, hey, can you do this? They came back and were like, I'm sorry, not they came back. Their Chinese supplier then came back and was like, why is your Vietnamese contact reaching out to us? Because all they were trying to do was source the stuff from China, too. Mm-hmm. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we got Wall Street Watch after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. Leaving assets to your beneficiaries is a critical piece of any estate plan. Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, has written a new guide that may help ensure that your assets are protected for years to come, while helping you avoid unnecessary mistakes during your planning. As an example, the new federal estate tax exemption is nearly $14 million. That could lead to a larger inheritance for your family members, but still raises concerns. There are several strategies in this new guide that will help you learn how to make the right decisions about your distributions at the right time. Cushing & Dolan have been helping New England families for more than 30 years. Let them help you, too. Call 866-848-5699 and get their brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Build a Retirement Budget. Mike, one of the rules of thumb that gets tossed around is, hey, just withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year and you'll be fine. Is that true still?
It can be, but it also leads to some confusing conversations because that 4% rule, one, is dependent on a very specific asset allocation that was recommended by the person that created it, and two, a lot of those things have changed over time and doesn't really account for the fluctuations that every retiree sees, right? You might retire and not start Social Security right away, in which case your withdrawals could be higher for a period of time.
What about on the other side of the ledger when you look at expenses? A lot of people say, well, I expect my expenses to go down. Maybe I only need 70 to 80% of my pre-retirement income.
Yeah, I mean, this one makes sense, right? Like, you're right now making money. You might be putting money into your 401k, paying FICA taxes that you won't in retirement. But this one especially, I have to say, varies a lot from person to person. That's 70 to 80% of pre-retirement income. And think about it this way, right? Do I still have a mortgage? Might that mortgage get paid off at some point in my retirement? What sort of debts do I have? Am I going to downsize to one car? Are we going to need both? What sort of travel am I planning on? And so that 70 to 80% rule can be a good starting point, but really you need to start with the budget.
Our guide is titled How to Build a Retirement Budget, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001 to request our latest guide, How to Build a Retirement Budget.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are taking a little bit of a breather today as Wall Street reacts to mixed messaging between the U.S. and China regarding trade negotiations. Investors are also sifting through more corporate earnings, including from tech giant Alphabet. At the moment, the Dow is down by just over 0.75% or 314 points. S&P 500 is off 0.3% or 15 points, and the NASDAQ is actually edging 4 points higher. Russell 2000 is off by over 0.2%. 10-year Treasury yield down by 2 basis points at 4.27%, and crude oil off 0.4%, trading at $62.53 a barrel. Alphabet up by 2% after the Google parent company reported first quarter results that surpassed street expectations, where the company generated just over $90 billion in revenue and operating income of $30.6 billion. Chuck and Mike will have more on Alphabet's earnings in the next hour. Meanwhile, according to CNBC, Meta has laid off employees in its Reality Labs division that is tasked with developing virtual reality, augmented reality, and related wearable devices. This comes after the social media and tech giant laid off 5% of its overall workforce back in February. Meta up by 1%. Elsewhere, Intel posted a quarterly loss and offered a weak revenue outlook. The chipmakers and executives said tariffs would boost costs and sap demand after an initial rush to buy ahead of the levies. Intel also announced plans to reduce its operational and capital expenses. Intel down by 8%. T-Mobile pulling back 9% after the telecom company reported fewer first-quarter wireless phone subscribers than expected. Its earnings and revenue did, however, beat street forecasts. Gilead Sciences posted mixed first-quarter results, beating on earnings but missing on revenue. That stock down by 3%. And Skechers off by 4% after the footwear maker posted lower-than-expected quarterly revenue and withdrew its 2025 outlook due to macroeconomic uncertainty stemming from global trade policies. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
So it's a nice segue into this piece from the Wall Street Journal titled Corporate Giants Shred Outlooks Over Tariff Uncertainty. And we're right in the middle of earnings season right now. You've got all kinds of companies reporting. I think we had like 80 companies from the S&P 500 reporting this week. Next week, I think, is somewhere in the range 80 to 100 as well. So this is, you know, kind of big-time, heavy-duty earnings season right now. And just a couple things that we've seen. And again, it's across different areas, which is why this is meaningful. Tucker noted the Skechers company pulling their outlook. Okay, so that's, you know, consumer discretionary. You've got Pepsi saying, hey, we're going to have some headwinds from tariffs as well. Pepsi kind of classify more in that consumer staples area. I mean, right, for better or for worse, soda and chips, man, that's a staple. There's no discretion about that. That is the stuff you're buying no matter what the economy's doing. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's, you might even buy more of it if the economy's not doing so well.
And they're saying, hey, we're going to have some impact from tariffs, and we're seeing a little bit of softness showing up on the retail side. Other places you're seeing it. Certainly airlines saying, hey, that the picture for domestic travel is weakening. The airline with the worst outlook on this is Southwest, who does not have any international business.
Yeah.
The other carriers that are, you know, do have international business are still saying, hey, we're getting, good traction in U.S. to overseas. Not as much, coming back, obviously, so we're trying to manage that. But we still have plenty of people from the U.S. who are looking to travel to Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, you name it. The international bookings are strong for U.S. citizens that are looking to travel overseas.
Robert Isom, Chief Executive of American Airlines, quote, "We don't know what is going to happen. What does that mean? It means that we don't hire as much. It means that we don't bring on as many planes, potentially. It means a reduction in overall economic activity." I don't know how much of an early indicator airlines might be here, but pretty discretionary, both from the business traveler standpoint as well as the individual vacationer standpoint, right? I mean, if you want to cut costs at your business, you may cut the travel budget.
Sure.
You might say do that meeting via Zoom or fly coach instead of business for the next few quarters. If you are, it's a lot easier to understand that on the individual side. You just don't book that vacation. You're going on a local New England vacation that you can drive to instead of flying down to Europe this summer.
The Verizon CEO was talking about, what impact tariffs could have on new handset pickups. A quote that they had when talking about, hey, would Verizon absorb the tariff costs? He said, if the tariff is going to be as high as they say on the handset, it's not going to be possible. The AT&T CEO, unfortunately for the customer, we're going to have to come up with some new ways for them to figure out how to digest that increase.
Which, by the way, has been exempted temporarily now, but the Trump White House has talked about specific tariffs on electronic goods and semiconductors coming into the U.S.
So these are some of the things that again, companies are starting to tell us. The interesting thing, and again, remember, the corporate earnings that we're going through at this point are through March, and the guidance that they are giving is cautious but not really, giving us any... It's not giving us any huge downside from what we've seen to this point. It's kind of been they've been indicating a modest deceleration. It's been 3 weeks since the tariff announcements, and so I think we're going to have to see how this evolves going forward because, again, there's kind of this ticking clock where each day the impacts potentially get larger and larger, and we'll have to see where we are in a couple weeks here because, quite honestly, if we're still here on Mother's Day, which this year, for all you listening out there, remember Mother's Day.
Attention.
It's a big one. It's on May 11th this year. If we come in on May 12th and we still have the rates of tariff that we do between the U.S. and China, I can see things starting to get fairly gnarly as we get into late June, July, August.
I think my answer is there's no way that we stay here. It's been very clear over the course of the last 2 weeks that the president is hearing the concerns of executives. He's hearing the concerns of those who are speaking with him individually. Remember, he had I think it was the roundtable with, Walmart, Target, and Home Depot CEOs this week. You've heard Jamie Dimon and others going on Fox News, intentionally trying to get the message out to the president and his voters. And so he is very much hearing the message of this could be very disruptive, and therefore we are having conversations. And it gets me back to something that I've spoken about before to both clients and on air, and I'm just uncertain of exactly how it plays out. But I do fundamentally believe that this president especially ties his success to the outcome of the economy and the markets, and therefore cares a lot about what the stock markets do. I don't know if it drives his decision-making process, but I do believe he cares about that legacy.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll talk about what we are seeing in the housing market right after this.
The global trade war has roiled markets, and a recession could be next. Keep it here for breaking business news and complete market updates on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Beneficiary planning and asset protection go hand in hand. Cushing & Dolan has a new guide out called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries, and it can help make your planning process smooth and easy. Leaving your assets to your children isn't as simple as it sounds, especially if they have problems of their own. If you're retired or nearing retirement, it's time to consider the best way to keep your assets in your family while avoiding significant financial consequences down the road. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. You'll learn which paths are the safest when it comes to protecting yourself and your children while avoiding unnecessary risks that can create substantial problems in the long run. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The breadth of the stock market sell-off in recent days hasn't been seen since the early days of the pandemic. And while it's easy to say don't panic, if you're concerned about your portfolio, given the impact of these tariffs, now's the time to have that conversation. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If the market correction has you anxious, or worse, rattled, give us a call at 800-393-4001. Let's get together and talk through your financial strategy, evaluate its strengths and weaknesses, and make decisions for the future that are in your best interest. These are challenging times, but we've dealt with them before and are prepared to deal with them again. Our goal is to help you protect the assets that you've worked so hard to attain. You can give us a call at 800-393-4001 and request a no-obligation consultation. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The Financial Exchange is now available on your Alexa smart speaker. Ask to play the Financial Exchange and catch up on anything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and they are the perfect place to take your next vacation. Enjoy spectacular beaches, world-class cuisine, and a wide variety of water sports. Don't miss your chance to visit America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Home sales in March fell 5.9% on an annualized basis, biggest drop since 2022. Now, I actually don't think that you can really attribute this to anything as it relates to trade uncertainty or economic uncertainty. And the reason being, if you were closing on a property in March, you had made the decision to look for a house somewhere last fall and likely made your offer sometime in January, maybe February if you had a quick close. most of the uncertainty that we've seen from an economic perspective has been in the last 6 weeks. I don't think this has anything to do with what's been going on from a tariff perspective.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. There are not very many home sales that develop this quickly. So what can we attribute to the drop to year over year? I mean, inventory is up March over March. Rates are flat.
Well, remember, if you were buying a place in March, you were likely locking your rates in somewhere in January. Like that's, again, I'm just kind of going through the path that people would follow here. And so ultimately, like you kind of look back and you say, okay, what were we seeing on mortgage rates over the last few months here? If you go back to January, rates were in the low sevens. They peaked actually at 7.25 on January 14th. I think to me, this meshes up with the weak pending data that we had in January and February. As such, I would expect the April numbers to actually be pretty good because rates had come down in February. Remember that by the end of February, we were at 6.74, and then in most of March, we were hanging out right in that range. So I kind of look at this and I say, yeah, this to me is a reflection of where rates were in January more than anything else. And I don't think it necessarily says a lot. Now, what I do think is going to be interesting, and what we are starting to see is potentially a little bit of new weakness developing as far as sales that are going to close in June and July.
Sure.
Like that may be starting to show up, but it's not there yet. The first few weeks of April were pretty good from a new pendings standpoint, according to data from our buddy Mike Simonson, who we have on occasionally. And so I think that when you look at this, April and May are probably going to be pretty okay, probably a rebound from this. And then you get into the questions of what do we look like in June, July, and August, but we're not going to know that for a while, obviously, because we haven't invented time travel yet.
And I got to say, I don't know that tariff and recession concern would dramatically reshape my home buying process, right? Assuming I was in a rental, like forget about, lucky us with our 3% mortgage rates. Like, okay, that's a different story. Of course, we're not looking. But if you're out there looking for a home right now or buying a car, yes, you might be concerned in certain industries about your job, but that's not everybody, right? That's not everybody. Not everybody works in tech or is a, university professor. You might be saying, look, I am not sure what it would cost to build a home a year from now. I know that I want to own a home. I don't love the mortgage rate, but prices could be higher a year from now. Why don't I just go do this? I think we might actually see some reasonably good data through the spring unless and until you see that unemployment rate start to tick up. So,
yeah, I think that's a reasonable case.
Yeah, I think it actually could be just fine on that front. But these are the types of decisions that American households are facing every day and are going to shape the future state of all of this. I do worry about that average person out there who is evaluating the decision on, hey, do I have enough saved up to buy that home? Do I have enough to, fix my car or fix my air conditioning unit if something does happen? If you are approaching the retirement stage of life right now, and you are, seeing markets play out in a much more volatile fashion than they have for the last few years, and trying to evaluate what you do next. I've been having a lot of these conversations recently, Chuck, where folks maybe were sitting out the markets in 22 and 23 to some degree, or got spooked in 2022 and weren't as aggressive as they could have been with markets in their portfolio in 23 and 24. And so we're trying to do a bit of makeup here and are suddenly finding themselves in a place where they're not as comfortable as they expected to be in 2025 with the state of the markets and the economy. If you're finding yourself in those shoes, hey, I'm approaching a big life event, I am unsure about the allocation of my portfolio. I know that I might want to retire within the next decade, and I'm just unsure about what to do about it. Please give the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group a call. We do have these conversations regularly. You are not alone in this situation. And what we can do is sit down with you and evaluate how you are set up today and whether or not it's appropriate for your stage of life where you are right now. This does vary a lot from person to person, and it's not easy enough to just say, well, you're in that bucket of people who are 5 years out from retirement. There are too many questions that go along with that. Are you eligible for Medicare? Are you going to sell your home? Do you still have a mortgage when you get there? These types of questions are critical when evaluating your financial strategy, and we'd love to do it alongside you. The number for the Armstrong Advisory Group is 800-393-4001. Again, that number for the Armstrong Advisory Group to book your consultation is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
I want to talk about something in the Boston real estate market that we saw. 99 High Street, which is an office building. It's a 32-story tower that was last sold back in 2005. The deal closed on Thursday for a $227 million sale. That is approximately 17% less than the $273 million that was paid for the building back in 2005, and $100 million less than the assessed value of $327.7 million. So a couple things on this. The first is the reason why this deal closed at a lower price is because there's still a lot of debt outstanding on it. And so really it's basically, hey, that the amount of debt and leverage that is there is what is driving the pricing on a lot of these. Ultimately, the big question for not just the city of Boston, but a lot of cities that are in a similar situation is, look, generally one of the biggest revenue raisers for large urban cities, it's commercial property taxes.
Yeah. In Boston, that is a massive portion of their budget.
And so if the building is being sold for 30% less than what the assessed value is, you better believe that the new owners are going to be on the phone with, the city of Boston saying, hey, get your assessors out here as quickly as possible, saying, yeah, we need you to, kind of look at that assessment and see what you can do about it, because obviously this building is not worth that much today.
By the way, that $273 million purchase price back in 2005, if you take that to 2024 dollars, that's $440 million in today's inflation-adjusted dollars.
Yes. So it does tell you something about, where that commercial property market is. You can't just look at it in nominal terms. You have to look at it in inflation-adjusted terms. So the company that bought it's a company called Synergy. They have been buying up different properties over, the last couple of years, and they've been paying significantly less than previous purchase prices. 36% for 101 Arch Street, 17% less for 1 Liberty Square, 40% less for 179 Lincoln Street. And so this is something where it's a trend that is certainly developing, and you have to watch this in a number of different cities because it represents a major potential threat to how they are financed. And the answer is very rarely, hey, we're going to cut services dramatically, because obviously that does not play well with the constituents. Neither does raising tax rates on either commercial or residential buildings or other things like that. And so either way, you're heading towards something that probably upsets constituents of a number of major cities, because there's no free lunch. There's no easy way out of this. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we got hour 2 coming up in a bit.
Retirement planning is complicated enough without having a formal budget to help you maintain your lifestyle during your later years. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide called How to Build a Retirement Budget was written specifically for this purpose. Our goal is to help take your financial concerns out of your retirement years. There are numerous issues to deal with when creating a retirement budget. Everything from understanding where your income will come from, to setting up a proper withdrawal strategy, to being able to remain flexible as market conditions change. This new guide offers structure structural guidance that may alleviate the pressures of creating your budget. You can request your copy right now by calling 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. Once again, that number, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about your brand new guide, Todd, how to leave assets to your beneficiaries. Todd, why can't you just add your kids to your accounts or to your house deed?
Well, you can. It's just not a good idea. So people who do that understand with an account, right, you can put a joint name on the account. Now, that doesn't actually complete the gift because you actually have to take the money out and then the gift is complete. But when you set it up, yeah, the asset would avoid probate. But if something happens to the child, it's going to be, available. Half the asset would be subject to the children's creditor. So you don't want that. And secondly, if you only put one kid on the deed, you've likely disinherited the other kids. So it's not really good planning overall. Whereas if you put the house in the kid's name, now you've actually made a completed gift of half the house and would need to file a gift tax return, number one. Number two, of course, it's exposed to the child's creditors and, yes, divorces. You could find yourself at some point owning half your house with an ex-in-law. Not sure that's a good way to plan. So please, put together trusts. Don't just throw names on deeds or on bank accounts because, as I always like to say, nothing good comes from giving assets away while you're living.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they've written a brand new guide called How to Leave Assets to Your Beneficiaries. To get your free copy of this comprehensive guide that will help you determine the best way to leave assets to your family, simply call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you on the second hour of the Financial Exchange. And stocks are not doing a whole bunch of anything in the aggregate. The S&P 500 is up 0.8. Not 0.8%, but 0.8, which is 0.02%. So the nice broad measure of the U.S. stock market, basically flat today. On either side, it's flanked by the Dow, which is off about 0.5% right now, down 192 points. And it is also flanked by the NASDAQ on the other side, up 60 points, about 0.33%. What is moving those respective indices in those directions? Well, for the Dow, it's the fact that Intel is a component, and so is Verizon. They're 2 out of the 3 components, United Health as well. And all 3 of those companies down about 2.5% to 6.5%. So that's not great when you have, 10% of your components off that much. It tends to be bad for you. On the other side of things, with the NASDAQ, you have a case where, when some of your big stocks like Alphabet, formerly known as Google, decide that they are going to be moving around, you end up in a situation where, hey, you've got some positive lift there. But overall, not too much movement in U.S. equities today. Same with U.S. bonds. 10-year Treasury down 2.5 basis points to 4.28%. Mortgage News Daily has the current 30-year fixed-rate mortgage average at 6.92%, so still floating right around that 7% range, not really getting any convincing movement lower, despite the 10-year Treasury coming down a bit over the last few days. You're just seeing a little bit of a widening of the spread there, and I think that reflects banks' concerns that, hey, maybe this move in the 10-year isn't legit, and we want to build in a little bit of extra cushion in our pricing should it change. Other things that we are seeing, oil. West Texas Intermediate is down 40 cents a barrel to $62.39. The AAA national average for gas prices down 0.7% to $3.16 and 4/10. We continue just to be stuck between $3.10 and $3.20 nationally for gas prices. And gold, despite a rally yesterday, back in sell-off mode today, down $60.40 an ounce to $32.88 and 20 cents. I mentioned the Googs during that open there, and they reported earnings after the bell yesterday, or rather their parent company, Alphabet, reported earnings after the bell. And what we saw from them was a really nice quarter, quite honestly, in terms of current sales. Their ad business is still good. They got good growth in their cloud business. Some slight misses with YouTube revenue. Their traffic acquisition costs were a little bit higher, but the stock after hours yesterday was up about 4.5%. Today, only up about 2%. So I do think it is informative when you have pretty good earnings and then a stock starts getting sold off over the course of the subsequent day. That kind of indicates a little bit about investor psychology. But overall, good quarter. They didn't have any real specific thoughts on, how a potential trade war would impact their business. They had some general things like, some of the drop shipping companies from China obviously won't, advertise as much on us, but it was not something where we got a ton of clarity as to what their outlook is for the rest of the year.
And nor would I expect it. I mean, they had some, I think, general statements around, in the event of a recession, you could see advertising revenue drop. Sure, but
really, tell me more.
But their direct impact from trade uncertainty is not terribly high, and I don't think you see those advertising dollars drop off until you start seeing businesses really cut costs, which they are not cutting very deep, if they are cutting at all at this point. The interesting piece to me is just where Alphabet is today. So the stock is trading at around 18 times projected earnings for the next 4 quarters. That compares with Microsoft's multiple of about 28 times. And granted, Microsoft is getting a big AI boost right now, both from their growth as well as their valuation just being put up there for their exposure to AI that I don't think Google is really able to execute on at the moment. But how much of that is tied into the risk of AI for Google, right? We've talked about this. We talked about it yesterday on the program that, if I look at any single company that could be heavily impacted by AI, it's a company that does search.
So here's something that's really interesting to me on that topic. We all see the search engines now where the first thing, the top thing is like an AI summary that's usually pretty crappy about whatever it is that you've asked it to find. Sometimes
depends, but yeah.
The thing that's really interesting to me is I generally think that those AI summaries on Google, or I'm personally a DuckDuckGo guy now at this point, but the AI summaries I don't think are very useful. But I do find when I go into an AI program, whether it be ChatGPT or Perplexity or wherever it might be, and I ask a specific question of those AI programs, I get much better results than search. And you can ask them now, cite your sources and please link your sites.
Yep.
And they will do that so that you can actually go and, follow, be like, is this accurate? So I find that to be interesting. And at some point, this probably starts to impact Google's core search business. But remember,
it might take a while, Chuck. 'Cause I was talking about this yesterday, right? You and I, when we were in middle school and high school, and I don't know exactly what time frame this took place, but
1963.
we would get trained on how to utilize Google to source things and find resources by a generation that was used to using printed encyclopedias.
Sure.
Today, students in middle school and high school are likely learning how to use artificial intelligence.
They are.
To draw that same data out. And therefore, I think it might take a little while before it gets fully played out that way. But the second piece about Alphabet that we didn't get into yet is the fact that 2 separate judges have now declared them to be a monopoly and are facing a massive threat from that portion of their business too, right? Could the advertising business be broken up and spun off in some meaningful way? Could their search business be spun? These are big questions that are tough to answer and could dramatically reshape their profitability.
One other piece that is interesting is this is the first quarter in a while where after reporting, you haven't seen them guide towards a significantly higher CapEx, meaning you wonder if you're kind of reaching the peak as far as where they think their spending is going to be on AI chips and things along those lines. And granted, that spending is still over, the next 12 months or so. It still is out there. But you do wonder what that means for NVIDIA, who obviously has been a huge beneficiary of, the AI boom. I don't need to tell anyone listening about why that's the case, but it gets at that question, which is, look, with NVIDIA, it's not like they're going to go out of business, but how does the growth trajectory for them look over the next 3 to 5 years? Because it probably doesn't look like the last 2 to 3, just because there's not enough money in the world to spend to keep increasing your CapEx 80% a year in perpetuity.
Likely not.
There's also not enough electricity in the world to provide to do that either.
There's definitely not on that front either. It depends, how wide does that customer base expand? Does it go from the Microsoft, Googles, and Apples out there that are buying the chips to everyday companies who are utilizing this in some new way that we're not thinking about? And today there's not much evidence of that.
Anything else on the Googs?
No, I think we can move along.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of trivia. Then we're talking about Apple trying to relocate some supply chains. We'll tell you where, why, and how right after this.
Tariffs fears continue to grip markets. Get the latest straight from Wall Street right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions. Beneficiary planning and asset protection go hand in hand. Cushing & Dolan has a new guide out called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries, and it can help make your planning process smooth and easy. Leaving your assets to your children isn't as simple as it sounds, especially if they have problems of their own. If you're retired or nearing retirement, it's time to consider the best way to keep your assets in your family while avoiding significant financial consequences down the road. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. You'll learn which paths are the safest when it comes to protecting yourself and your children while avoiding unnecessary risks that can create substantial problems in the long run. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Retirement planning is complicated enough without having a formal budget to help you maintain your lifestyle during your later years. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our new guide called How to Build a Retirement Budget was written specifically for this purpose. Our goal is to help take your financial concerns out of your retirement years. There are numerous issues to deal with when creating a retirement budget. Everything from understanding where your income will come from, to setting up a proper withdrawal strategy, to being able to remain flexible as market conditions change. This new guide offers structural guidance that may alleviate the pressures of creating your budget. You can request your copy right now by calling 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. Once again, that number, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and today is Al Pacino's 85th birthday. The legendary actor has been nominated 9 times at the Academy Awards, but has only come away with 1 win. So, trivia question today is, what movie did Al Pacino win his only Academy Award for? Once again, what movie did Al Pacino win his only Academy Award for? Be the 4th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you'll win a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the 4th correct response to text us at 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
You know what the wild thing about Pacino is?
His name?
No.
Aside from that, the wild thing about it is that Pacino was basically a nobody when he was cast in The Godfather.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of questions when he was cast in The Godfather.
It was his, I think, second role and first major one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, so we're just going to, give Al Pacino the role he's 32 years old. He had done nothing basically to that point. And obviously, the rest is history, but it's kind of remarkable just that, you would take a chance on someone like that in that film there. And obviously,
worked out all right.
Funny thing about The Godfather, do you know how much it cost to make The Godfather?
Probably cheap.
It wasn't a big budget film, obviously.
$2 million?
$7 million. You know what it made at the box office? $250 to $291 million.
You know how much it's made after that?
$1. Good amount. Piece from Bloomberg. Apple aims to build most iPhones for U.S. in India by end of 2026, which is, did the math on this, 20 months from now. So here's the thing.
That'd be pretty impressive.
Apple right now makes somewhere between 30 and 40 million iPhones a year in India.
Okay.
They are planning on somewhere in the ballpark of a 10 to 15% increase this year and a subsequent 10 to 15% increase next year, getting them to somewhere around like 55 million. They sell about 60 million a year in the United States.
Okay. This is not as big of a leap as, it depends which models you are
Here's
doing.
the thing that they're going to have to end up doing is, A, getting the model mix right so that right now it's not like all of the iPhones that are made in India go to the U.S. They get scattered across the globe. I don't know where, I don't know how, but they don't all come to the U.S. now. So this would much more be, hey, everything that we make in India is going to go to the United States.
Right.
The stuff that we're going to continue to make in China can go elsewhere. And it's really about kind of reorienting their internal supply chain, not so much to have a huge shift in strategy, because they've already been increasing iPhone production in India for the last 3 to 4 years now. This has been a pretty consistent theme for them for a little while, but much more, hey, let's get the mix set so that it's the ones that we're going to send to the U.S., and that way we don't need to worry about what the China tariff situation is coming into the United States.
Which, can we just talk about why this whole strategy on tariffs, if your attempt is to oppose China in some meaningful way, this is not going to work.
I don't know on that yet. I'm willing to let that play out because I think tariffs are one part of the puzzle there. And it also
but the problem
assumes,
is, if you now have the same level of manufacturing of iPhones in China, or even a higher concentration, because you know that everything you make in China is going to everywhere but the United States, if your job is to oppose China, if the goal is to make reforms in the way that China does business, you need to convince Europe to not buy any iPhones from China.
So this is where I'm going with this. I'm somewhat convinced that Europe is kind of a lost cause on this. Just because I think they're so dependent on China right now, and quite honestly, there's some pretty strong signs that various European governments are somewhat kind of compromised with regards to their China views, that I don't know that you're going to be able to get Europe on board there. I do think when we talk about places like Japan, South Korea, India, okay, you can build a little bit of a wall there. And I suspect, and even on some of the reporting, it's being reported that some of the asks from the Trump administration in trade negotiations are, hey, we want you to, help us build this wall against China as well. I won't call it the Great Wall of China because they've already, done that. That was built, by China. But hey, we want to kind of wall off the Chinese economy where we can.
Yeah.
That's a big ask from the U.S. to a lot of these other countries. Will it get over the finish line? I don't know. But
I'm also not sure that it is the end goal of these tariffs.
I think it absolutely is.
I just, when there's so many other objectives tossed out there, I just start to get confused.
The reason that I'm a big believer in, yes, listen to what people say, but ultimately pay attention to what people do. On April 9th, what happened? Hey, all reciprocal tariffs are being pulled back except for China.
Yeah.
That's the signal to me.
Right.
That is the clear signal. By the way, early February, imposing tariffs on Mexico, China, and Canada. What happened?
Canada, Mexico gone.
Yes.
Yep.
Then in early March, what happened? Parts of Canada, Mexico pulled back. China, we're ratcheting you up another 10% to 20%.
Yep.
So I think from the actions, it's clear to me, hey, we want to try to isolate China, and maybe there's just all this noise because, hey, if you're making all this noise, okay, fine, you won't pay attention to what's actually happening, then, hey, look, China's isolated and we've done it. Is it the best way to go about it? You can obviously have, real conversations about that and come to a pretty clear understanding where I'd probably be like, probably wouldn't do it this way. But I think there's a clear message in the actions of, yes, we want to try to isolate China on the global stage. Will it work? We can't answer that question this week, this month, or even this year. This is going to play out over a decade in order for us to actually find out. This stuff does not move quickly.
One other thing about China, just outside of all the tariff talk, for reality to set in here too, 50 years from now, China is unrecognizable based on their demographic issues that they have.
It's going to be half the size of what it is today. It's going to go from being 25% of the world's population to 10%.
Now, maybe they completely change their views on things to allow a bunch of migration into the country.
Probably not.
But I very much doubt that. That is not a big part of really any country, especially China, but many Asian countries have a very different view on migration into their country. This this threat from China that we all see. Now, that still exists because when oppressors like Xi Jinping get pushed into a corner, I don't want to even think about what happens there. But China is not this big looming concern out there in my personal view on this because, 50 years from now, they are, like you said, half the population that they are today. They cannot support the same manufacturing that they do today.
Sorry, 50 years from now, it's going to be about 3/4 of the population of today.
Okay.
80 years from now, it's going to be half the population. I misspoke. This is according to projections from the UN. So there's that.
It's just a good reminder because I feel like whenever we talk about China, it's look at how much more efficient they are. Look at how much better they are at this or that. Look at how powerful they are. And I'm not sure I agreed with that before, but I definitely don't see it today.
I mean, look, they are like the Chinese government, and by virtue of that, like the Chinese economy is really good at some things.
Yep.
There is nowhere in the world you can go and get the cooperation from the government to get you the people, land, and resources you need if you treat them right.
Yep.
The obvious, if there is, hey, you've got to play nice with the Chinese government and what they want you to do, which can be problematic because of some of the things that they do. But there's a reason why so many companies go to China to manufacture. It's not just the cost, it's the skill and efficiency of the whole system that ends up being built there. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about tomatoes after this.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much, and they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Build a Retirement Budget. Mike, one of the issues that we've seen for retirees in the last several years is significantly higher home insurance premiums and property taxes going up as well. How do people attempt to navigate this but still stay within the budget they had laid out for themselves?
Yeah, look, the cost of home ownership, I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. Whether you are buying a home for the first time or you are just seeing those insurance and tax rates that you mentioned going up, it is really impossible to avoid. And I think that's where that flexibility in the budget comes in and needs to be recognized. Because, for instance, you might have factored in a huge cost savings by moving to Florida a decade ago.
Sure.
A lot of that has been eaten up over the course of the last several years. And so you have to have a budget that can evolve with your lifestyle over time.
How often do you review that budget?
I think it's important to at least get a grasp on it once a year. And you can really see costs fluctuate a lot during those periods of time. But those flexibility points are really important because you have to account for inflation, and different things inflate at different rates. So, for example, you might see that your costs of health care rise dramatically in your later years, both because you need more of it and because health care costs inflate faster than other types of costs. And you have to build those into the budget, even though you might be paying nothing for them today.
This month, our guide is titled How to Build a Retirement Budget, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. The guide again is How to Build a Retirement Budget, and the number to call is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, what movie did Al Pacino win his only Academy Award for? That'll be Scent of a Woman, where he played Lieutenant Frank Slade, a blind military veteran. Winner today of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Ryan from Canton, Mass. Congrats to Ryan. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
All right, let's talk tomatoes here. There's a piece in the Bloomberg titled What the Tomato, or Tomato if you will, teaches us about free trade. And I'm going to quote the first two sentences here. Most tomatoes from Mexico will face a 21% tariff effective July 14th, the U.S. Department of Commerce said last week.
Why most? Which tomatoes are they exempting?
Michael?
Heirloom.
I'm not getting into it.
I don't want to go there
I'm not getting into it.
Just confused.
Ironically, the love apple.
Who calls a tomato a love apple?
What?
Never heard of that in my life.
Has that ever been a thing?
It was apparently, well, according to my AI overview, the term originated in France. Pomme d'amour.
Oh.
Oui.
No. So, in any case, here's the deal. Is clearly in New England, you cannot grow tomatoes most of the year.
Wrong. Backyard Farms, Madison, Maine-based agricultural company, has been growing tomatoes in winter in their greenhouses for years.
That's fine. It's just you can't grow enough tomatoes to feed all of New England.
True.
And all of,
That's
New
a big
York.
greenhouse otherwise.
Yeah. Right? Like, you're going to turn the entire state of Maine into a greenhouse?
Yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
I'm as big of a fan, actually, Backyard Farms. Fantastic.
Yep.
Still big Little Leaf Farms guy for lettuce. Only lettuce I'll buy.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, you can't get these greenhouses big enough to supply all of the needs. So a couple things that you have here is that, look, you can grow tomatoes throughout the United States, and obviously we do, but
it's a lot easier to grow them in Mexico in winter.
It gets really pricey because you're competing with actually building houses in a lot of these areas in anywhere in that you can grow these year-round in the United States.
Well, Florida is an example here.
Florida and California. Have you seen what land values have done there the last 20 years?
Well, plus in Florida, I mean, California's a different story, but in Florida, the growing conditions for tomatoes are apparently not terribly good. You don't love a bunch of humidity because
humidity's not good.
Pests, fungus, all sorts of stuff that they don't have to deal with in Mexico. Now, counterpoint, the Mexican government apparently subsidizes the construction of these greenhouses that they use to make these tomatoes. I kind of get why you don't want to compete with that if you're a Florida tomato grower, but as a policy, do I really care if Mexico wants to subsidize the cost of tomatoes coming into my country?
I do. Okay, there's some things that I don't mind like illegal subsidies. If someone wants to subsidize the heck out of T-shirt production, give me all the $3 T-shirts I can get. Because ultimately, there's no national security risk there.
Yeah.
Now, you may say, hey, look, with tomatoes, like...
plenty of substitutes, so it's not one. But if you do that across the food chain...
Right, you can't do it with food all over the place because then you run into problems.
Yep.
So food is something where I kind of look at it and I go, yeah, if you want to make a case, hey, we need to have some imports of, key areas that aren't subsidized by other, economies because you just need to be able to have these things year-round, like, totally agree. But when you start getting into foreign governments subsidizing production of food that they're going to export, it starts to get a little dangerous for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is, according to Bloomberg, what has happened. Mexican growers have perfected the use of greenhouses, often erected with government subsidies. And I would, totally understand that if I were a Florida tomato grower. On the other hand, if I've been a Florida tomato grower, I've been able to sell my land for tens or hundreds of millions of dollars over the last few years for real estate development. So I'm probably not that upset about it anymore.
Right. There was a family that had a 332-acre tomato, squash, and pepper farm that they sold a couple years back to GL Homes for $215 million. Good money if you can get it.
But this is the trade-off that is being discussed, and what it likely means, were they to stay in place for a significant period of time, would be tomatoes costing more in the winter than they do in the summer, which, frankly, I can live
They probably should.
Yeah, I can live with that.
They probably should. It's harder to grow them
but
than you need to
you
ship
do
them.
think about, right, go talk to somebody who's been grocery shopping for 60 years. It's not like you were getting avocados in January in Minnesota.
No, look, I still talk to my parents, and they're like, oh, like, it's grape season. I don't know, like...
It's always grape season now.
Exactly. Like, the world has changed a lot in the last 80 years, mostly for the better, but you still need to, find some ways to make sure that, if there is, like, some kind of outbreak of international conflict or trade lines get snarled, that you can still feed your people. And that's why I view food as something very different from Tickle Me Elmo's.
Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visit usvi.com/promotions. Well, you'll find details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visit usvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visit usvi.com/promotions.
Mike, you a big Chili's guy?
Have not been in years.
Don't lie.
Have not been to Chili's, or you've not been a big Chili's guy?
I have not been to Chili's in years.
So there's a piece in the wall. I haven't either. I can't tell you the last time I went to Chili's. Tucker,
probably
what about
college.
You?
Right. I wish I'd gone sooner, but it's pretty sweet.
While ago. Yeah. So, piece in the Wall Street Journal. How Chili's won when America raged about fast food prices. And basically what they did was they said, look, we've got stuff that's better than fast food at only slightly higher prices. Come eat here. And like things that they're advertising. Again, they've got an advertisement right now advertising what they're calling their Big QP Burger. what does QP stand for?
Quarter pounder.
How can it have 85% more beef than a quarter pounder?
It's not a quarter pounder. Yeah.
It's confusing to me then. What am I actually getting? Like 85% more beef than a quarter pounder. So a quarter pounder is 4 ounces. So 4 times 1.85. I'm getting a 7.4 ounce burger. Who's asking for that? But apparently a lot of people, because they're actually, operating pretty well. And their parent company, Brinker, is finding that, hey, we're able to compete well. And before all the tariff stuff, they actually had raised their revenue and profit guidance for the year, while fast food has, kind of been trying to find its way a little bit.
This must be playing incredibly well in California, where they have the fast food minimum wage, for example. So I'm sure that's doing quite well there. I wonder about here, right? Like, what is the real price differential? I'm on their site, and that big QP burger with fries is going to cost you $14 down in Braintree, Massachusetts. What can I get a quarter pounder for at the McDonald's on the highway? It is probably more than $10.
I think the thing that's interesting, Chili's is a sit-down restaurant.
Yep.
So I'm getting sit-down service for a price that is comparable to even a little bit less than a Chipotle.
Right.
That's the value proposition.
Yeah, that is compelling.
I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have someone wait on me. Now, granted, I do have to then tip differently than I would at a Chipotle.
Although that's now so part of that culture, too, that, how many times do you go to Chipotle and tip 20%?
Honestly, haven't been to Chipotle in probably a year.
Tucker?
Never,
yeah.
Why would I tip at Chipotle?
Because they turn that pad around to you, and I think a lot of people end up tipping. If I were at Chipotle and they turn that pad around, I'm probably tipping minimum of 10%.
No matter what you're doing.
Takeaway, yeah.
If someone's handing you cotton candy.
I don't think Chipotle has a tablet you're talking about.
No, they don't? Okay.
No.
All right, fair enough.
They just have a standard cash register.
With no tablet.
No tablet.
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Lots of dimes, lots of quarters.
I don't recall seeing that.
Nickels. Occasional penny.
All cash operation.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, their whole thing is like there's no cans, like nothing's pre-made, everything's fresh. Like, give me some fresh pennies then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Definitely not.
Wait, it's not the U.S. Mint. My bad. Let's take a quick break. When we're joined, after this break, we're going to be joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's right after this.
Market volatility is at its highest point since the pandemic. Keep it here for the most comprehensive coverage of the global trade war. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The breadth of the stock market sell-off in recent days hasn't been seen since the early days of the pandemic. And while it's easy to say don't panic, if you're concerned about your portfolio, given the impact of these tariffs, now's the time to have that conversation. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If the market correction has you anxious, or worse, rattled, give us a call at 800-393-4001. Let's get together and talk through your financial strategy, evaluate its strengths and weaknesses, and make decisions for the future that are in your best interest. These are challenging times, but we've dealt with them before and are prepared to deal with them again. Our goal is to help you protect the assets that you've worked so hard to attain. You can give us a call at 800-393-4001 and request a no-obligation consultation. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Beneficiary planning and asset protection go hand in hand. Cushing & Dolan has a new guide out called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries, and it can help make your planning process smooth and easy. Leaving your assets to your children isn't as simple as it sounds, especially if they have problems of their own. If you're retired or nearing retirement, it's time to consider the best way to keep your assets in your family while avoiding significant financial consequences down the road. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called How to Leave Assets to Beneficiaries. You'll learn which paths are the safest when it comes to protecting yourself and your children while avoiding unnecessary risks that can create substantial problems in the long run. That number again is 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, the United States Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next vacation. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway, a long weekend with friends, or a family vacation, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy that special time away from home. Take advantage of a variety of incredible promotions that are available right now. Go to visitusvi.com/promotions, where you'll find the details about all of these amazing experiences, including a stay at the Divi Carina Bay all-inclusive beach resort and casino on St. Croix. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Don't miss your chance to enjoy America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Head to visitusvi.com/promotions for more information and to book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com/promotions.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
The Financial Exchange is proud of our partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts, and this year's 5K is Saturday, November 8th. Registration is now open. The race has sold out each of the past 4 years, and slots will fill up quickly, so don't delay. Visit dav5k.boston today and reserve your spot, or join our team here at the Financial Exchange by registering under Team TFE. That's Saturday, November 8th. For this year's DAV 5K, sign up now at dav5k.boston.
As promised, we're joined by the one and only Paul LaMonica right now here on the show, and we're talking Coca-Cola with him. Paul, how you doing today? Oh, Paul, you there?
All right.
Paul is not there?
We'll try to get him.
Okay, we're going to try to get Paul. In the meantime, let's talk a little bit about... Should we talk about anything?
Gen Z workers?
Do you want to tell a joke?
No, I don't have one. Just ready to go here.
Oh, okay. What do you say when you lose 25% of your roof? Oof.
Good.
Still no Paul? No. Okay, still no Paul. Let's talk about Gen Z. Gen Z is the generation that is younger than millennials. So for everyone complaining about 20-year-olds that are lazy, that's them, not us anymore.
Got it.
Glad we've gotten that out of the way. Gen Z workers are increasingly opting out of college and into the trades. This according to a piece from CNBC.
2 million fewer students in traditional four-year universities now compared to 2011. And interesting piece in my mind, this was all, well, partially at least cost-related. The annual cost of attendance of a four-year in-state public college increased by about 30% from 2011 to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
CPI, closer to 40.
So cost of college actually has been going up more slowly than overall inflation.
Now, granted, it was doing like 10% a year back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it was ripping.
It couldn't have kept that pace forever, but that surprised me a little bit to look at that cost of attendance increasing by only 30%, which is a lot, but everything's gone up by 30, 40% over the course of the last decade and a half.
Now, there are obviously varied, levels of success with anything, whether you're going to college or not going to college is not the only determinant, but you do have some people that, look, they started their business when they were 18 and they've built it over 5-6 years. Now are making real solid money because, hey, there still aren't enough tradespeople in a lot of cases. We are now joined by Paul LaMonica here to talk a little bit about Coca-Cola because, this is one of the few stocks that is in a pretty good spot this year. It's up 18% so far. They report earnings next Tuesday, I believe. What's been working for them in a world in which a lot of companies have really seen their stocks struggle to start the year?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think that investors are, appreciating the stability, the kind of safe haven status that comes with owning Coca-Cola. You've got a nice, solid, steady dividend that yields just under 3%. That's, nice during these market volatile times. And, let's be honest. I mean, Coke is not going to make anyone forget the growth rates that we still have from a lot of the Magnificent Seven companies. But, while those companies have taken a hit, partly due to concerns about valuations and, what's going to happen in a trade war, I think Coke has been a steady performer and has even gotten a bit of a premium to the market because of its stability. And it's held up better from a fundamental standpoint than rivals like Pepsi, which is, just reported earnings that were a little disappointing. And a lot of that has to do with Coke expanding beyond carbonated beverages. Fairlife has been a huge success for them, an acquisition that they did, the milk brand, a couple of years ago. That's still growing pretty rapidly.
In terms of potential headwinds for them, what are things that investors may be concerned about and how are they trying to address them?
Yeah, I think investors are obviously worried about the new administration, RFK Jr. in particular, and the crackdown on things that might not be considered as healthy. And I think, no one, even Warren Buffett, despite the fact that the Berkshire Hathaway chairman and, lover of both Coke as a product and the stock, has been drinking it for decades and is still with us in his, mid to late 90s. Coke is not a healthy product per se if it's, over consumed. So I think, any sort of regulatory crackdowns could be an issue, but I think that is one of the reasons why Coke has made this push into the milk business with Fairlife, which again is growing rapidly. It's got, the lactose-free milk, the protein shakes as well. It is a brand that I think a lot of investors may not have realized is part of the Coke portfolio now, and it really has helped boost performance with regards to revenue.
When you look at Coke and kind of compare them to other companies in the space, I know Pepsi reported earnings yesterday. What can Pepsi's earnings tell us about what we may expect for Coke next week? Any strengths, weaknesses, or anything like that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, Pepsi is a bit, even though it's obviously the company that investors inevitably compare Coke to, you have to remember that Pepsi also has the snacks business. Coke really doesn't have any presence in food, so that is something. But I think what Pepsi did with its guidance, concerns about tariffs, obviously that is going to be something that investors need to see what CEO James Quincy has to say. Just because we know that Coke is a multinational giant, it could come in the crosshairs of countries like China, and even some of our allies because of the concerns about tariffs and a trade war right now. So that's something I think investors are going to be watching. But, Coke has been resilient, and I think the strength in a lot of its core brands will show through, even if there is some soft, short-term volatility due to the tariffs.
Very good. Paul, we've got to run, but appreciate you joining us, and have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot. Same to you guys.
That is Paul LaMonica from Barron's talking about Coke. We're done for the day, done for the week. Dow currently off 169 points, S&P up 3, NASDAQ up 63, so relatively quiet mixed markets. See what happens this weekend. We're back on Monday. Make sure